Story 1. In the remote village of Eldritch Hollow, nestled at the edge of an ancient and eerie forest, a tale of darkness and fear had long haunted the locals. The legend spoke of a cursed mirror hidden within the depths of the forest, a mirror that was said to reveal the deepest fears and innermost demons of those who dared to gaze into it. Among the villagers, there was a young woman named Amelia who was known for her curiosity and fearlessness. She had heard the stories of the cursed mirror since childhood, but her fascination with the unknown led her to dismiss the warnings and seek out the mirror for herself. One moonlit night, when the air was thick with an unsettling stillness, Amelia embarked on her journey into the heart of the forest. Armed with nothing but a lantern and a sense of trepidation, she ventured deeper into the woods, the trees seeming to close in around her as if the forest itself were alive. After what felt like hours of walking, Amelia stumbled upon a clearing. At its center stood an ornate, ancient mirror, its frame encrusted with faded symbols and symbols of forgotten languages. The surface of the mirror appeared to ripple as if it held a life of its own, beckoning her with a magnetic pull. Despite her pounding heart, Amelia stepped closer, her reflection staring back at her with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. With a deep breath, she met her own gaze and whispered, "Show me my fear." The moment her words left her lips, the mirror's surface rippled with a dark energy. Amelia's reflection began to change, its features contorting into an expression of sheer terror. She watched in disbelief as her reflection's eyes widened in horror, its mouth opening in a silent scream. A sense of dread washed over Amelia as her own fear seemed to come to life before her eyes. But as quickly as the image had appeared, it shifted again, revealing another scene, a vision of herself standing alone in the forest, surrounded by shadowy figures that whispered and beckoned. Amelia's heart raced as the vision continued to unfold. The figures grew closer, their fingers elongating into claw-like appendages. Their voices echoed in her mind, filling her thoughts with darkness and despair. She watched as her reflection's face twisted in terror, its eyes filled with a profound sense of hopelessness. With a gasp, Amelia tore her gaze away from the mirror, her heart pounding in her chest. The vision had felt all too real, as if she had glimpsed a future that was destined to consume her. Panic surged within her, and she stumbled back from the mirror, her mind racing with a maelstrom of emotions. As she retreated from the clearing, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed her out of the forest, a lingering sense of unease that seemed to whisper in her ear and cast shadows at the corner of her vision. Sleep eluded her that night, and when dawn finally broke, she found herself unable to shake the feeling that her encounter with the cursed mirror had altered something within her. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of the vision continued to press down on Amelia's mind. The forest seemed to call to her, its whispers growing louder and more insistent. She became consumed by a compulsion to return to the mirror, to face the visions again and confront the darkness that had been awakened. Driven by a mixture of curiosity and dread, Amelia journeyed back to the clearing. The mirror stood before her once more, its surface a portal into a realm of fear and uncertainty. She steeled herself and whispered, "Show me the truth." The mirror's surface rippled once again, and Amelia's reflection morphed into a distorted image of herself, her eyes hollow and vacant, her skin pallid and lifeless. The forest around her seemed to decay, the trees withering and crumbling as if infected by her very presence. Amelia's heart raced as she watched the vision unfold, the truth of her own fear laid bare before her. She realized that her obsession with the mirror had brought her deepest fears to life, infecting her mind like a poison. The mirror had become a conduit for her anxieties, twisting her perceptions and shaping her reality. As the vision continued, Amelia saw herself reach out to the mirror, her hand passing through the surface as if drawn into its depths. The mirror consumed her, its darkness enveloping her in a suffocating embrace. The vision ended with a haunting image of her own reflection staring back at her, an echo of the person she had once been, now lost to the curse of the mirror. With a mixture of horror and resignation, Amelia stepped away from the mirror, the weight of her actions settling heavily upon her shoulders. The forest seemed to breathe a sigh of release, its presence no longer suffocating her thoughts. She left the clearing, her steps heavy with the knowledge that she had become a part of the very legend that had haunted Eldritch Hollow for generations. And as the forest reclaimed its secrets, the legend of the cursed mirror continued to thrive, a cautionary tale of the dangers of curiosity and the darkness that can lurk within even the bravest hearts. Story 2. In the heart of a forgotten forest stood a dilapidated cabin, its weathered walls sagging under the weight of time. It was a place few dared to approach, for the air around it seemed to hum with a palpable malevolence. Legend had it that the cabin was cursed, a dwelling that had once belonged to a recluse who dabbled in dark arts. One stormy night, a group of adventurous teenagers gathered around a campfire, sharing stories of bravery and daring. As the wind howled through the trees and rain pelted the ground, one of them, a young woman named Lily, dared her friends to spend the night inside the cursed cabin. Despite their protests, curiosity got the better of the group, and they made their way to the cabin, flashlights cutting through the darkness. As they stepped inside, a wave of musty air greeted them, and the air seemed to grow heavy with a foreboding energy. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, and the creaking floorboards echoed through the silence. Ignoring the unease that gnawed at their insides, the friends set up sleeping bags in the cabin's main room. They laughed nervously, reassuring each other that the stories were nothing more than old wives' tales. But as the night wore on, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. Lily's flashlight suddenly flickered, plunging the room into darkness. The group's laughter died out as they exchanged uneasy glances. With a nervous chuckle, Lily attempted to turn the flashlight back on, but a bone-chilling gust of wind extinguished the lone candle, leaving them in pitch blackness. As they fumbled for their phones to use as makeshift lights, a low, mournful moan echoed through the cabin. The sound seemed to come from all directions, as if the very walls were crying out in agony. Fear tightened its grip on the group, and their brave facades crumbled in the face of the unknown. Whispers filled the air, indistinct and haunting. The friends exchanged frantic glances, their fear turning into a desperate need to escape. But when they reached for the door, it was as if an invisible barrier prevented them from leaving. Panic set in, and they realized they were trapped within the cabin's malevolent embrace. Suddenly, a figure materialized before them, a spectral form draped in tattered garments. Its eyes glowed like embers in the darkness, and its voice was a chilling echo that seemed to pierce their very souls. "You dare trespass in my domain," it hissed, its words a mixture of anger and sorrow. The friends huddled together, their hearts racing as they faced the vengeful spirit that had been awakened by their intrusion. The figure's words painted a gruesome tale, a tale of a man who had been consumed by his obsession with the dark arts, a man who had unleashed forces he could not control. As the spirit spoke, the room seemed to shift around them, the walls pulsating with a sickly energy. The air grew colder, and the friends felt as though they were being drawn into the very fabric of the cabin's cursed history. They realized that they were not just witnessing a ghostly apparition, but were becoming entangled in the very nightmare that had consumed the cabin's previous inhabitant. With every passing moment, the barrier between the physical and the spectral weakened. The friends' desperate pleas for release went unanswered, their voices drowned out by the cacophony of anguished whispers that filled the air. Their very identities began to blur as they became enmeshed in the spirit's twisted memories. In a final act of desperation, Lily's voice cut through the chaos. She cried out, not just for herself, but for her friends, for their shared humanity that the spirit had forgotten. As her words rang out, a blinding light enveloped the cabin, dispelling the darkness that had held them captive. When the light faded, the cabin stood empty, its walls no longer haunted by the malevolent spirit. Lily and her friends found themselves outside, shaken and disoriented. The storm had passed, and the forest was bathed in the soft light of dawn. The friends knew that they had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death, a fate that would have seen them trapped in a cycle of torment for eternity. Their encounter with the cabin's curse left them forever changed, a reminder that some places are best left untouched, some stories best left unspoken. And as the first rays of sunlight touched the cabin's decaying walls, they realized that the forest had reclaimed its secrets, its sinister history hidden once more within the depths of the forgotten woods. Story 3. In the quiet town of Hollowbrook, nestled at the base of a rugged mountain range, a dense forest known as the Whispering Woods stretched for miles. Despite its serene appearance, locals spoke of a dark secret that lay hidden within its depths, a secret that would send shivers down the spine of anyone who dared to listen. One summer evening, a group of friends decided to embark on a camping trip in the Whispering Woods. Among them was Jake, an adventurous spirit who scoffed at tales of the supernatural. As the sun set and the shadows lengthened, the friends set up their campsite and gathered around a crackling fire. As the night deepened, the forest seemed to come alive with rustling leaves and distant whispers. Laughter and chatter filled the air as the friends shared stories and roasted marshmallows. But as the fire's glow diminished, a hush fell over the group, and the forest's murmur seemed to grow louder. Jake laughed off the unease, brushing aside the stories of whispers that echoed through the trees. He suggested they play a game of truth or dare to lift their spirits. The group agreed, eager to shake off their growing apprehension. When it was Jake's turn, he chose dare without hesitation. With a mischievous grin, one of his friends dared him to venture into the heart of the forest and spend an hour alone in the darkness. Jake, fueled by bravado, accepted the challenge without a second thought. Armed with only a flashlight and a cocky smile, Jake plunged into the woods, the trees enveloping him in their embrace. The forest seemed to swallow his laughter, and a sense of isolation settled over him. He wandered deeper, his steps guided only by the beam of his flashlight. As the minutes ticked by, the forest's whispers seemed to grow more insistent, as if they were trying to convey a hidden message. Jake's confidence wavered, but he refused to admit defeat. He continued to walk, his flashlight revealing fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures that seemed to dance just beyond the edge of his vision. An hour passed in what felt like an eternity, and Jake decided to turn back. But as he retraced his steps, he realized something was wrong. The path he had taken seemed unfamiliar, the trees closing in around him like gnarled fingers. Panic surged within him as he realized he was lost, disoriented in the heart of the whispering woods. With each step, the forest's whispers grew louder, a cacophony of unintelligible voices that seemed to echo from all directions. Jake's heart raced as he called out for his friends, his voice swallowed by the relentless symphony of sound. He stumbled through the darkness, his fear mounting with every passing moment. Suddenly, a figure materialized before him, a spectral form with hollow eyes and an ethereal glow. Its voice, a haunting echo, seemed to resonate in Jake's very bones. "You dare enter our domain," it hissed, its words carrying a weight that sent shivers down his spine. Jake's bravado crumbled as he faced the undeniable presence of the supernatural. The figure's eyes bored into his, revealing a depth of knowledge and darkness that was beyond comprehension. With a chilling whisper, it spoke of forgotten secrets and ancient regrets that lingered within the forest's shadows. As the figure's words faded, a path seemed to open before Jake, a path that led him out of the heart of the whispering woods. He stumbled back into the clearing where his friends awaited, their faces a mix of relief and concern. His hour in the forest had changed him, leaving an indelible mark on his soul. The friends left the whispering woods that night, their laughter subdued and their spirits forever altered. The forest's whispers would forever linger in their memories, a reminder that there are forces beyond human understanding, and that the boundary between reality and the supernatural is thinner than we might dare to believe.